Hello, folks. There's a new version of the exit ticket formative assessment spreadsheet that I had put together a few weeks ago, and a teacher that had been using it wanted to make a change, and so I worked out the details of that change. The main part of the change is that the teacher wanted to be able to write questions that were based on being able to see some images. So, for instance, on the user sheet now, you can write the question and have the students choose based on some images. So you would build your images in Google Drawing or whatever software you use for drawing, and then you would insert the images into the cells. And this required changing a few of the ways that we were doing the scripting. So let's take a look real quick. This is just an info cover sheet, shows you a few things, and goes over some of the details. You have a roster of your students and put in their email addresses, and that's to allow you to be able to share the file with them. When you run a script that we have, the add bulk user script, it goes through and reads the roster and builds a new sheet for every student, and then writes the sheet name and URL on this users page so you can access them. And before you run that script, you want to go to your Google Drive folder. In this case, I have this Google Drive folder. I would go to this Google Drive folder and I would copy this URL and then paste that URL right here. You can see that's that URL. And then we have a regex that extracts the ID, and we use the ID in the script actually, we use that in this bulk user script. We have to identify the folder, and we get that by pulling that data from that source. Let's see, we're pulling that folder source from the user sheet B3. That's the folder ID, and that's why we put that in there. The teacher only really has to write these tests. You can come up with your tests. You do want to write your unit number alongside each question, because we use that to pull the data. You write your questions. If you're going to use these images, insert the images and use your correct answers. The user sheet, one change that we have to do with this is that if I wanted to switch, in this case, from unit 4.1 to unit 4.1b, I would simply come to my test page, highlight the unit name, the questions, the images, go ahead and copy that, come over to my user sheet, just click here in cell A1 and paste, and now I'd be pushing out unit 4.1b. The user input is where we collect the student answers, and this is really the meat of what the teacher wanted, a way to automatically push out different exit ticket tests and then be able to pull all the data back and be able to analyze the data. So this all pulls in automatically. I can show you in this example here, if I got rid of these student answers here, and we should still be on unit 4.1. If I click get student answers, that's going to run a script that's going to open each student sheet individually and pull in their answers and automatically assess that for you, and conditional formatting is showing you which ones the student got right and which ones the student got wrong. In that case, the pull data script is what's going out, opening up each sheet of each URL, and pulling in the data from D2 to D6. D is where we see the, you can see there, column D on the user sheet is where their answers are. And we pull that data back in, and then we write it back to our sheet. Let's see, so here's an example of what the student sheet looks like. I actually have this column E open. I'll go ahead and hide that. That's generally hidden. That's where we push out the correct answers. Let me show you that in this case here. This is the student sheet, and you can see column E is blank. There's nothing in any one of these. Well, it does appear as though that data isn't in there. Well, let's watch what happens when we come back to our master sheet, the teacher sheet, and I remove the correct answers. I'll come back here to Tegan, and you'll see that data should be removed. And you saw that true that was in there is gone. And you can see as I scroll down through here, there are now no correct answers. And the reason we push those correct answers out is so when we archive, we can have the students comparing what they answered and whether or not they got it correct. So in this case, when we're looking at this student, notice again, no correct answers. When I'm ready to push that out as the teacher, I go ahead and send the correct answers. I can sit here and watch this. Notice what's going to pop up here. There's true, there's B, there's A, and so forth. So generally we keep that column hidden, but the students can't see the information anyway because it's white on white, and we just use it to assess only after the test is taken. And then we can push out the correct answers for the students into the archive before we push out a new question. So in this case, let's say that I have 3 of these student tests opened up, and let's just go to the archive so you can see, and let's go to CAM's archive. So what happens for the teacher side when I decide to archive the student tests, script runs, and if I watch here on all 3 of these sheets, it's going to open them up and it's going to paste that data, and you can see I just pasted in. Of course, it's still unit 4.1, and it automatically assesses how that student did. So in this case, that student got those ones, and in this case, this student got everything correct. And again, we can see that here where we pull the data in. So if I were to, well, we already showed that. If I don't have any data in here and I pull the data back, now the teacher has a record of that. And then finally, what we want to do is write a summary of this, and we can just do that right from this page, back up the last test. And what that does is makes a copy of this, because this is going to change as soon as we push out a different unit. We're on unit 4.1, and now the teacher has a record of 4.1, 4.1b, and so forth with all the students and how all the students are doing. When the teacher is ready, and you've already changed this to unit 4.1b, here on the user input page, I can switch to unit 4.1b. Notice all these answers are incorrect, but that's okay because we haven't taken that test yet. I'd just go ahead and delete that and leave that blank like that. When the teacher writes a new test, as we see here, we've got a new test, it's really the same test rewritten, but wants to push out the new test, what the teacher does is goes to utilities and update questions. And I'm going to watch here on the user sheet, and I'm going to watch what happens on the user sheet. What's actually happening is a new user sheet is being created, and the old user sheet is being deleted, and then that new user sheet is being rewritten. So you can see now the user sheet has this new unit 4.1b, and I should see that on each one of the student spreadsheets. So now the students would take a new test. Now, if I were to come back here before the students took a test, and you can see there's 15 students here, so my script is actually still running. We'll wait till that script finishes. We would, if we have a new unit now, unit 4.1b, and none of the students have taken the test, if we were to come here and run this script to pull in the data, now notice that those 15 have finished. So let's pull in some data, but really we'll see that there isn't any data to pull in. So let's see what happens. Let's try putting in some correct answers. 12, B, this is Tegan's test. He's going to write 3 times 8 equals 24. There's 18, and we're going to have 12. So Tegan's answered his questions. Let's come back and let's say all the students have done this. Let's get the student answers. Let's run that again. Again, the script is running. It's opening up each student sheet. There's 15 of them. It's gathering the data, and it's pulling it in and pasting it here. And notice it's pasted it in. That's Tegan's sheet, and he got 80%. He missed 1 out of this particular example. He should have answered, oh yeah, we typed in the wrong answer there on Tegan. Question was which array, and he was supposed to choose which one of these pictures here was the right array. One thing the students can do, if these pictures are a little bit small, if they make the space of the where the image is a little taller, they can see that image a little bit better. So I only answered the questions on 1. I think we've run through everything that the script does. Now it's time to back up a new summary, and I'm going to back up the last test. And in this case, what we'll see is just the only test we have here now is Tegan's. So when we look at our scripts, we update our questions, write a new test, push it out. We only run the add bulk users one time. That's to create the spreadsheets, and once we're done with that, we don't use it. We can send out correct answers, and we want to do that before we archive the students' answers. Sometimes we might want to send out the correct answers and then remove them. And then the script get student answers, well, we actually can run that one right from here. And then the script add test to summary, that script can be written right there. And then finally, we want to archive the student tests. So if I run that archive student tests again, let's take a look here. And let's see what we get with Tegan. And I do believe I set up the archive. Yes. So I have the script send out the answers just in case you run this archive before you send out the correct answers. The script will actually send out the correct answers before you do that. And you can see now this is how Tegan did on this last test that we just pushed out. You can see it's a slightly different order of those images. So it's a pretty comprehensive system, and I'm going to set it up so that you can make a copy and use it if you wanted to.